Hi there and welcome to House & House The Essentials. I'm your host Josh Phegan, and today we've got an incredible conversation around what it takes to be amazing in leasing. So guys, let's jump into the conversation, introduce who you are, what you do here at House & House so our viewers can get to know you.
I'm Alidad here, Senior Leasing Broker. I cover the Emirates living area. But yeah, leasing is my specialty.
Yep. How long have you been doing leasing for now?
So up to a year and a half now.
Yeah.
Obviously with Jake's help, we've done pretty well. I've done pretty well in that year and a half. So
yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that momentum and how you've built it.
Exactly.
Introduction.
Yeah, my name is Jake Walton. I'm Leasing Director at House & House.
Yeah.
I've been in Dubai 3.5 years, came straight to House & House, joined as a leasing agent in Jumeirah Golf Estates.
Sure.
Then was fortunate enough to gain a promotion into Leasing Director and haven't looked back.
So. Now you're running the show, which is awesome. So let's have a great conversation today. Alidad, we're going to maybe start with you. Why Dubai? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Dubai had a special place in my heart
to
begin with, because I grew up kind of half my childhood here, but it was much different from the Dubai that we live in now.
Yes.
I saw the opportunity. I was in a law degree. Didn't really want to pursue that, so I saw the opportunity, saw the market in Dubai, and took the challenge, took the leap. Like a lot of the agents we have in leasing and in sales. So yeah, I saw the opportunity and just grabbed it. I already knew Dubai. Like I like the weather, everything like that, the lifestyle. I was familiar with it, so it was just the job that I needed to find, and this was a big challenge, big step to take.
Yeah.
But yeah, I took it, and it seems like it's slowly paying off.
Yeah, and literally, originally, where did you come from?
Iran, originally.
Yes. Yeah, wow.
So I was born there, and moved here when I was 5.
Yes.
And to London when I was 13.
Yeah. And then came back from London?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. And what was the reason that drove that to want to move from London back to Dubai?
I feel like the opportunities in London weren't really there for me, especially in a law degree. I was kind of going for the law focus background.
Yeah.
And then it's so competitive there.
Yes.
Law across the world is really competitive. So I was kind of struggling to find a place there. Then towards the back end of that degree, I thought, is this really for me? I just did the degree to, finally get a degree. It's a good degree to have.
Yes.
Under your hand, but just thought it was time for a change. And Dubai was the place, and I saw the real estate market. I was like, wow, I need to get involved. Yeah.
So how does that go when someone you've a lawyer that's gone to leasing? Like, but it's a great conversation though, isn't it? About like moving into something that's a bit more, less about what you get paid by the hour and more about what you actually get paid in terms of results, right? Yeah. And then now you're really in control of being able to build that. Jake, for you, tell us about the story. Like, why Dubai for you?
I think timing really. It was post-COVID. We'd gone through that crazy time, which everyone remembers. And also my role at the time was in car sales, and I really loved the job. It was great.
Yeah. What was your favourite car to sell?
We generally sold German cars, but I sold a few Bentleys and stuff, some nice bits like that. So there's a few nice bits, but as I say, I love the job, and it taught me everything I know about sales pretty much. So it's a really, really good foundation for doing this job.
Yes.
But I did feel there was a bit of a ceiling, My general manager, hopefully he doesn't watch this, but I always used to look at him and think that's my next step, and he never seemed happy. And it was we worked weekends, and he complained didn't see his kid, and there was a lot of we worked a lot of hours. You had to be there whether you had appointments or not. You was always on the ground in the showroom. So there was a potential I was going to get promoted and potentially run one of the dealerships, which would have been great. But at that time, I just felt that I didn't really want to make that next step. And before I did that and had to devote my loyalty to that promotion, I decided to look elsewhere in Dubai. I'd been on holiday once, fell in love with the place. Amazing place, and the sun, sea, sand, tax-free, opportunity, just everything.
It sounds like that was a good marketing pitch. The sun, the sea, and tax-free.
Pretty much. I mean, it's everything that you anticipate and more. And 3.5 years later, I just can't see myself ever moving back. And I never say never, but I just feel like this is where my future is. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing when you start to think about it. I saw some stats the other day. They say close to 100 million people a year walk through the Dubai Mall. And so when you start to think about that, and then the opportunity that creates in leasing is insane, because there's got to be a lot of people who are just like you guys, who all of a sudden say, you know what, I want to be in an environment that's going to give me a better future. I want to be in a country that's got a stronger vision, and I want to be a part of something that's got new infrastructure and something that's exciting to be around. And when you go to have a quick look at the Dubai 2040 plan, and you start thinking about an extra 5 million people living here, it's going to be pretty insane when you start to see that growth. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm probably one of those people that I'd probably probably would lease something first for maybe 6 months or a year to get a bit of an understanding of areas and maybe price points and the types of locations where I would want to live before I'd probably move into a purchase. And so this is actually a really good foundational story, because I think it's about you learning how to be a great estate agent, that literally that leasing is probably the easiest and fastest and best way to start your estate agency career, and can be a phenomenal place to hang out for the rest of your career if you wish to do so. So tell us a bit about why leasing. Like, you know, as a part of that, you could have gone to sales, you could have gone to off-plan. Yeah. Does it just teach you a lot about people and communities?
100%, because leasing, the transactions are quicker.
Yes.
So you're always out and about doing viewings. Sales might be a bit slower, so I've heard, but you're always about, so you're learning your community. Mm-hmm. So Emirates Living is my community that I specialize in. Mm-hmm. When I first came, I didn't know anything about it. You go on viewings with colleagues, senior colleagues, mm-hmm. get them to tell you the market report, all that, mm-hmm. And then you become a specialist. And then, yeah, like you said, a lot of people coming from overseas don't know where to buy yet. So leasing is their first option. Mm-hmm. They want to see where the home is going to be, the future home, right? So, mm-hmm. you know, they lease for a year, mm-hmm. see how that goes, and then make a decision based upon that. So, you know, area of mine is like mine is in a great location, mm-hmm. Marina JLT. Mm-hmm. So you get a lot of people, always a lot of demand there.
Yes.
And the stock is always there. Mm-hmm. So they always just meet. You can always get a deal from different clients coming in, basically.
Have you ever thought about it, like what percentage of the inquiries that you end up getting end up leasing something? Whether or not it's through you or someone else, yeah, it'd be pretty high, right, in terms of the conversion rate.
100%.
Yeah.
People who are inquiring are genuinely interested. They're taking the time to go on these portals,
yes,
and look for properties.
So they're either on ground or they're about to be on ground, yeah, and they need to do something because they've got that relocation. Yeah. And what a lot of people don't think about is that in sales, that's not always the case, where you meet a lot of people with a lot of dreams who don't actually necessarily end up living out those dreams. Whereas in the leasing environment, you know, what if someone's coming forward and say, hey, I'm interested in being a tenant, I'd like to lease in that particular building, can you show me that one? It's either going to be that one or that one. And they're going to have to take either one because there's a life event or something that's occurring that's going to force that decision. How much has it helped you to develop knowledge of people, qualification, understanding then about communities?
Yeah, I mean, qualifying is so important, because when I first started, I went on any viewing, right?
Yes.
but now I know how to qualify the client.
Yes.
Because some of them need to move in 2 months, and with a vacant property at the mm-hmm. time, landlords are reluctant to kind of rent that property or leave it empty for a month or two, because they're losing money on it.
Yes.
So it's important to qualify. If you don't, you end up going on a viewing with someone who's moving in 2 months, and mm-hmm. it's a bit of a waste of time for you and them. Mm-hmm. So qualifying is of utmost importance, mm-hmm. And something I didn't do to begin with, but now it's done basically. It's just a given, like do it to begin with. And then obviously you need to know your community, and the market prices there, because they'll ask you, especially with people who are like homegrown here, people who live in the communities, they know the prices. So, you know, they might be renting at a COVID rate and want to hire and know the pricing. So they don't really want to pay that high price and will negotiate down. Well, some people that are coming from overseas don't really know the price and think, okay, this is what I'll get in this area. So you kind of have to give them the knowledge of the market, prices, and what's going on in the area.
So Jake, it must be really exciting for you, because you're bringing people from all over the world to come and join the House and House team. Yeah. And one of those conversations is that, like, there's a little measurement from the time that you start in the business until when you make your first bit of revenue to then when you first hit budget. What's that looking like for most people that are coming into a leasing team? How long does it take them before they get their first transaction together and then start to be able to hit budget and then start to make some really good money?
I mean, it can happen in the first month.
Yes.
It's going to happen in month 2 for a lot of people.
Yeah.
We always say, to be honest, it's about how quickly can you get to maybe 3 deals or 5 deals, right? The first deal isn't going to make you rich, but it'll make you quite happy.
Yes.
And it's about building that momentum and making sure you don't then have a big gap before your next one. So some of the best brokers in the business went 2 months and didn't do a deal, and then, you know, hit that streak and have absolutely smashed it moving forward. So maybe not be too concerned about how quickly you do a deal, but once you are hitting the ground running, like, you know, that you've got the momentum and you can do a lot of deals and
I think the big conversation is like to really realise about how we actually get to go and meet an owner, how we get the opportunity to be able to go and lease that particular property, what we actually do to source tenants on that particular property to be able to keep it, in a position that's actually fully occupied as opposed to vacant. And you've got to learn a few things. And so there's a couple of layers to that knowledge. Yeah. Those layers probably start off with, first of all, you've got to have community knowledge. So I know that sounds funny, but people ask, how much sun time does the pool get? That's kind of important that you're aware of that in that particular building or the villas that you're leasing out. The secondary conversations that they're actually learning beyond that, then what's actually happening in terms of market. So we understand the community, but what's happening in the market right now? Are prices going up? Are they down? Are they quite stable? Are they going backwards? Is there more supply coming on when a building gets completed off the plan? So you got to learn about that inside of your environment. Then the next conversation is that then actually understanding the deal itself. So how do you actually bring a deal together? How do we actually get someone to be able to pay in a check? But when we talk 6 checks or 12 checks, what does that look like? Most people in the rest of the world are thinking 6 months or 12 months. So we've got different terminology. How important is it for people to be able to have a knowledge base, for example, to go to learn all of that information in order to get them to be successful inside of the leasing environment? Super important. I mean, it's amazing that we have that facility called Knowledge Base, which has literally every question you could possibly ever ask as an agent listed on there, which is great. Before that, people just bombarded the likes of myself with questions, which is amazing. It's great, but you often find yourself answering the same questions, which is fine. So the fact that we have that, and it gives people that, maybe if we're not around, we're filming a podcast like this, those questions can get answered, and that's something that's super important for anyone that's looking to join a company, to have to join somewhere that's got the right infrastructure and levels of support that you can excel because of that. And I think this is a big one for people like you, Alidad. When you have a look at the speed at which you've been able to get to your high level of success, is about that ultimately you've got all the systems and you've got the support and you've got the people around you. So then it's just your own personal energy and effort about making sure you're making the calls and getting in front of people and making that happen. Let's talk a bit about it today, about like day one. If you were here today and you're giving yourself advice, what would be some of the things that you would have said to yourself to sped up your success to where you've got to in a much shorter period of time?
Day one, definitely when I came into the role, I was a little more shy.
Yes.
So I didn't do as many calls.
Okay.
I got to understand that you need to do these calls like every single day. Just even if you're busy, even if you're doing deals, take 1 or 2 hours of your time, make those calls, because you need to build that pipeline. That's what I didn't do at the start, really. I kind of shied away from it, and then with time, I developed it, and I'm so comfortable on calls now. So probably I'll tell myself to don't be shy, get on the phone and call. And anyone who comes into leasing, into house and house, or into Dubai, just don't be shy. Just take the opportunity and just make those calls, and you'll find success. Jake, you've had the opportunity to be able to see lots of people that have come into the business, and it's really about that whole idea about the routines that they set up and treating it as a business. How important is it for people to actually understand, hey, reward for effort? Dubai's got lots of things that can get your attention, but you got to stay focused on really doing great work, and it is a day-by-day thing in order to build the momentum in your career. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's trusting the process, basically, because you are going to do probably, it will feel like you're doing more work at the start of this job than you'll ever have to do again, and you'll get paid the least for it. So it's like trying to believe that you're doing everything right, and trust that you've turned up today, you've earned no money, but the work that you're putting in today will earn you money next week, the week after, or the month after, or further down the line at some point. So trusting the process, and then just being able to stay in the game. Dubai's an expensive place. If you're a bit frivolous with your cash, and then you can't afford to stay here past 2-3 months before you've even had a chance to start building some income, you can be out of the game before you know it, which you don't want to be. So you got to be careful with your funds and what you're spending, and just really work hard. I say to a lot of people that make sure month one is month one, because when you come in, of course, from a business perspective, from my perspective, I'm not really like all over you to get a deal done straight away. So the pressure is off a little bit, but don't coast along and then month 2 becomes your month 1. Make sure you come out the blocks and you start hitting the phones and doing the work straight away. So let's talk about community knowledge. How do you do that? Like, is it as simple as going for a walk, walking down into the community, learning more about the buildings, understanding what the facilities are, understanding maybe transport, location to schools, some of those shopping centres, some of those lifestyle activities that people might want to go to, whether or not it be waterways or the conversation around bike tracks and all that sort of stuff. How important is it to really become one with your community first before you worry about even doing that first transaction? Very important, important, because your first client will ask you about the amenities in the area, shopping malls. So it's almost important. You need to know your area if you're going to succeed in this role, because there's even sometimes people coming in like in the same area that will ask you just to test your knowledge and see if you're a good agent. So you need to know it, and it's not hard. You just have to go into the area, just explore 1 or 2 hours, go into the communities, see what's there, and kind of become familiar with it. It does happen more over time, becomes more natural. But, you know, when you're first in, just get into the community and learn it.
I always say that literally, rather than driving around, walking around is kind of interesting because you see so many different things walking than you actually do by driving, because you're actually starting to get a bit of an idea about the path tracks that people actually go to. What is important here is that, like, you know, beyond that, then you've actually got to start to then get building knowledge, right? And I know it sounds funny, but how much time does it take before I can move in? What days of the week can I move in? Are there any specific people I need to talk to in order to be able to move in? Do I need to get access rights? Like all of that sort of stuff. A lot of people just don't know. One of the things that, Jake, that you've really done to help with House and House is systemization. And what we did was we've done like a property information sheet, which gives you all the details that you need to know about that property, then combined with the community information sheet, which goes to give you the further details about what's happening in that area. Why is it important for you to ensure that your estate agents have got access to that on a property and also to a community information sheet when they're out there working with prospective tenants?
It just enables you to make sure you don't miss any of the features and benefits, and you have to put yourself in the client's shoes. And what would I be looking for as a client? What would I need to know? I'd need to know where the school is for my kids. I'd need to know where the local shop is. Where's the pharmacy? Where's the barbers? Where's the whatever it is nearby? Where's the closest pool or park? All of these things. And if you've got that in an information sheet, and you know you don't even have to remember it. You know, we can't always trust our memory, right? And if you do multiple units in that day, maybe in different areas, maybe colleagues are viewing it, and you can pass that information sheet on. So that client is fully in the know, having completed that viewing. So,
Alidad, if you go and talk about like working with a tenant, what are some things that you want to try to know in your qualification to make sure that you can work out who's ready now and who might need some assistance before they get ready to do a transaction?
Yeah, so the qualification process usually happens on WhatsApp. I call them because it's better to get that personal touch. Questions I ask is how many checks they can do, because landlords, obviously it's a big thing here. As you said, 6 checks, 12 checks.
And so when people think about checks, that's usually 1 check per month, is that right?
Yeah. I think villa communities more is like 1 to 4, and then apartments are a little bit more, but just obviously depends on the landlord and their expectations. And then the move-in date is really important because it needs to align with the landlord's expectations on when he needs to rent the property out.
So you don't want to have it let, but have a month where it's vacant, where you're waiting for that tenant to all of a sudden turn up.
Exactly. I mean, you get instances where tenants will take it before they even move in, just to secure the property. But those are kind of the main 2 things that matter, and then other things are like occupation and things like that. Just make sure they're secure. You don't need to do a check, because with Emirates ID, I think they do the KYC check basically for you. So it's pretty simple from then on.
And is there a difference between leasing to someone who's already in Dubai versus someone who's coming from somewhere internationally?
You just have to make sure, obviously within Dubai, to have all the bank accounts set up, checks are there, and Emirates ID. If they're coming internationally, you just got to make sure they have all those documents before they can rent. Otherwise, obviously, they can't rent without Emirates ID. And most of the time, they can't rent without checks in hand and an open bank account.
Yeah. So, Jake, let's talk a bit about it, about actually finding properties that you can go out and rent out. What's the best way to do it, to be able to get instructions from landlords, to be able to look after them, and to be able to find a tenant for their properties?
So, you mean from a client perspective? How would they go about it? Well, I mean, obviously, they'd probably go online straight away and probably use one of the portals, but the best advice is to reach out to a local area expert and find a good agent that can give you the right advice, because although we do rely on these portals and scrolling through those to see what's coming on, what's brand new on the market, what have I missed, that often a lot of deals are done off market. So you need to speak to an agent that's competent in their area, that has potential offline listings that you would miss if you don't reach out.
It's important to be able to go and work with an organisation that's already got a whole heap of past clients where we've done multiple transactions with them in the past, because obviously there's the benefit of being able to get those customers to come back and to do that transaction again with us. So do you start to find that there's a bit of a pipeline of deals already starting to happen, because you're getting close to the end of that 12 check agreement? So now all of a sudden that property is going to need to be either relet to the existing tenant that's already in place, or relet to a new tenant. And so actually that's worthwhile of making a call, right?
100%. I mean, the benefit of leasing in general, no matter where you work, is the fact we're dictated by timelines, we're dictated by a tenancy contract. That property is either going to renew and they'll stay there, or it will become vacant. And at that point, that landlord needs to replace that tenant. So you really can dictate your diary across the year as to when you need to ramp up the calls for particular landlords based on those tenancy agreements. So that makes the actual working within leasing a lot easier, whereas in sales, like, it can be a life event. You don't know when that decision is going to be made. You're not dictated by a timeline. So that's one thing. mean, also from the tenant's perspective as well, often it's their primary residence that they're looking at. They're either coming to the end of their contract in their existing rental, they're either new to the country, they're in a hotel or short-term accommodation, so they also have a deadline to try and meet. So it makes it a lot easier for us when we're pulling deals together as to when we need to speak to people and for qualification purposes. So that in leasing in general is quite easy in that sense. But in terms of our internal system and having those warm leads, that's again the benefit of having 10 plus years in the industry. We've got thousands of clients and landlords on our system, and we have that data stretching back, for all those rental contracts. We have a renewals team. If they don't renew, they reach out and they refer it back to the team. So we have a lot in our system already, which we're just farming and re-renting as time goes on.
And I really love that, because that's really important about pipeline, right? Because you can imagine starting in a brand new business that had none of that, whereas now we've actually got all of this data, but most importantly, all of these relationships that we've already successfully served. And now these customers are coming back again to say, hey, could we do that transaction one more time? Because we've now got a need to go and do that. Now, it is an important thing. Tell us a bit about routine. What does it take to be great in leasing? What are some of the things that you've learned in running a week of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, Saturday, Sunday included. It's 24 hours basically, this job.
Yes.
But you always have to work, always be on viewings, answer the phone, because the weekend viewings are kind of your hotspots, because people are working and they always want to view in the weekend. So you have to be available and make time for that. So the routine, would just be go on viewings, make calls, and just keep repeating that over and over again. Yeah. And just make time for, the qualified clients that are going to close. And it's
literally an interesting conversation, because it's the speed at which this transaction can happen, right? So you've met someone today and all of a sudden they're wanting to sign paperwork that afternoon. Like, far out, that's pretty fast, where there's other situations that you're waiting for them to come out and it's a month down the track. So keeping lists of key people are really important in different price bands, types of properties they might be going after, so that then we can go out there and we can actually source a property for that ideal tenant. Jake, let's talk a little bit about that, about like the best routines that you've seen of the people that have gone from zero to hero the fastest inside of leasing. What do they do differently compared to the rest?
Probably first things first, they probably put more hours in straight away. Yes. So, which is, if you manage to get more hours in the office, then you're naturally going to do things that people aren't in the office are doing anyway. Yeah. Well, having that structure is super important. Generally, the best setup, and we give people free rein to sort of manage their diary as they please. And some people work in slightly different ways, but generally you want to get in the morning, try and get in before everyone else, so you can get ahead of the day, sort your admin out, make sure your listings are looking really, really good online. If you need to true check, for example, on Bayou, or verify your listings on Property Finder, then you can do all that and make sure that you're getting as much lead generation on those listings as possible. And then obviously you want to spend the day, possibly in the morning, you're going to be doing follow-ups from the day before. Hopefully you have loads of viewings, you need to get a lot of feedback, and you want to be relaying that back to the landlords, potentially having good conversations, maybe getting some offers, or potentially having price reduction conversations so you can get some more leads. So basically doing all your phone calls in the morning. You then want to have a bit of maybe an hour or so in the morning where you're prospecting new business as well, and creating opportunity for the afternoon. So you want to be making sure that your diary is full every single afternoon, so you're getting out doing viewings, because you create the opportunity in the office, but you actually do the business face to face. So
I love how easy that's just coming off his tongue. You're listening to all of that, like, literally this is my structure and my routine, but that's actually the reality of what a great estate agent is all about, right? It's about like saying, okay, in the morning I'm going to have my best energy. Hopefully I've slept really well last night, I'm in a position, I've done the workout first up in the morning, I've exercised, I'm ready to go, and whenever I come into the office, call it 8 o'clock, I'm going to be back there. Who are the people that I've got to get back to that have maybe inquired overnight? Who are the people that are in a position that naturally I should be calling because there's actually been a result or something's actually gone on? And what should I be doing to go to generate lots and lots of leads? So if all of a sudden you see there's a whole heap of inquiry for people that are looking after a 2-bedroom apartment in your particular area, who are the other owners that we know that have got a 2-bedroom apartment? Can we ring them and have a conversation and see whether or not they'd like to lease those out? Given that level of demand, could we get one of those tenants through theirs? What would it take? And you start having those conversations. What I love about that, in the afternoon, we're all about getting more face-to-face. This is your chance to get in front of the community. How often do you jag an opportunity by being in a building, seeing an owner, having a conversation with someone that leads to something else? Tell us a bit about that.
100%. Like, you'll meet people in the elevator and then you have a chat with them. They own a place in the building or in the community. They'll see you do viewings. If it's a villa, they'll see you do viewings and then come up to you. So how much would this rent for? You go have a look at their place. Yeah. And then it goes from there. So it's important to be in those areas, because there's always going to be owners there that will see you do the work. So a lot of the business is also done by going on viewings and people seeing you work. And giving you more business, basically.
So building confidence on the phones really matters. Like, we live in a society where lots of people actually hide behind emails, and we have this thing called influence, where I say, okay, great, how do you influence people? First best way, face-to-face. Second way, then I'm literally over the phone. Third way, I then go to things like Zoom and some of that sort of stuff. Next way after that is then I go to voice notes, which is huge here in Dubai. After that, I then go to SMS, and then I then go to email. And if you think about it, it kind of goes like that in terms of influence, but the audience kind of goes like that you can send an email to millions of people, but yet at the end of the day, if you really want to influence, who are the 1, 2, 3, 4 people that I need to call or I need to get in front of? And that might be that you might have someone who actually owns multiple properties. So Jake, let's talk a bit about that. How important is it for you to understand who are owners that have got multiple properties in your marketplace? Because if you look after them on one transaction, there's now a chance that you can do multiple transactions for them, right?
100%, yeah. And we're fortunate enough to know of a lot of these owners and that they have big portfolios, but most of the time, especially when you're new to the business, like, they will test you. They might give you one listing, see how you get on, and then when you go and sign the contracts, you meet them at the hotel that they own, and then they say they've got loads of other listings, you've done a great job, and only then will they relay that information to you. They'll tell you what you need to know at the start, but and if you probably don't do a great job, you probably never find out what they own. So yeah, but there's a lot of people like that in Dubai that own serious amounts of units and are veterans in the real estate world. So if you can do a good job, then you might have a client for life. But
I love that whole idea is about, like, literally it's not just one transaction, it's multiple transactions. And you know what I always say in the leasing environment is that just because we've done today's transaction, it doesn't mean that there's not another 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 transactions for that particular owner whilst they own that property during their lifetime. Now, what is really important is that what you've got to start thinking about is that this is actually setting you up for future success in Dubai, because the reality of it is you look after one client really well, they're going to be able to tell other people about you. And that's what you've got to start thinking is that literally not all clients are the same. There are some people where you'll do a transaction, and then there's someone else that you'll do a transaction which will turn into 10 more. How important is it to make sure that when you're there, and I think that McDonald's might have asked this question where they say, would you like fries with that, which made them like $1 billion US, but did you have any other properties I might be able to help you out on? How important is it to do that when you're there working with the owner, and even when you're working with a tenant to find out if they might own something that they're letting out for a particular reason, and that could actually be multiple transactions right there when you're in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things they teach us in training, right?
Yeah.
We do that 1 week training,
yes,
rigorous, and that's what they teach us. So you have to ask that question, because the likelihood is if they own one property in Dubai, they're looking to expand their portfolio. If they haven't already, you'll pitch something to them, right? Off-plan sales, refer them over. So if they only have one property, you'll pitch that. If they have a big portfolio, then you'll know what properties they have coming up, and kind of service them from there. If you do one rental, they'll likely trust you if you've done a good job. I have an Iranian landlord who just calls me for everything.
Yes.
And I just refer it on to the agents we have. So it's really important to ask that question, because the likelihood they'll have a lot of properties.
So Jake, that's a big part about, like, coming to an environment like this. You're dealing with multiple cultures. They've got different cultural values, and there's different conversations. And if you get in with that particular group of people, then they're in a position that they can refer you to lots of others of their friends and family. Tell us a bit about that. How did you develop your awareness about the different values that they might have and what they see as being important? Like, some are very much wanting to see you face to face. Some don't want to hear too much from you until there's a transaction done. But is that an important thing for you to start to then build your confidence to be able to get on the phone and have those conversations with them?
Yeah, 100%. And you have to be a bit chameleon-like in sales, right? Well, I suppose that happens anyway. You can go to a town in the UK, and you're going to get different personalities and different people that need dealing with in different ways. So it's just a part of the job. It's a very, very diverse place that we live in, but it's also amazing. You meet people from all walks of life that you probably would never have the chance to meet if you didn't move here. So learning to handle that in ways that works with them is part and parcel of the job.
So Alidad, they always say that attention to detail is the big difference around customer experience. What are some things that you try to look at to make sure, hey, get these basics right, because these moments really matter? One that you gave, for example, was, okay, great, when are they looking to lease the property and when is it vacant? To reduce vacancy time, to maximise return for the owner. Are there any other little things that you think of when you're putting a transaction together to make sure that you've got right on that term sheet, so that then literally when it goes forward to the owner, that you're presenting the very best offer, so they understand exactly what's going to happen, to easily be able to say yes or no, or which items they need to negotiate on?
Yeah, I mean, a current profile is very important when you're presenting, potential tenant to a landlord. Obviously, number of checks, move-in date, but obviously they want to know what they do. They want to know their background, where they come from, and how long they intend to stay in the property. The likelihood is the landlord wants a long-term tenant, right? So it's really important to say how long, or the intentions of how long they're staying in Dubai for. So it's key to just give a full profile to the landlord, and give them the best opportunity to accept that offer. Or if they have any issues or any questions, they come back and ask you. Maybe if you haven't provided what they do, they ask, what does he do? Let's have a face-to-face. Works all the time. Like most of my transactions, I try to get a landlord and tenant to meet face-to-face. Builds a good relationship to begin with, because it's not over WhatsApp, right? You meet, you do the contracts, and you get to know the person. So that's the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah. So if you have a quick look at that around like building up relationships over that long period of time, your job is to actually serve a customer really well. There's an old school saying that every single successful transaction should lead you to two more. One that the tenant actually refers you to someone, and one that literally maybe the owner refers you to someone. Jake, tell us a little about that, about how you actually do that. Is it just about asking really good quality questions and learning to build the confidence to do it when you're actually getting on the phones? Because you're both really confident people, but you can imagine that there are people that are trying to get out of their shell for the first time, and they're ringing a client who might be a bit abrupt or maybe a little bit aggressive on the phone, and learning how to connect and open them up, right?
100%, and it's all about the information. Like you will get, if you knew exactly, let's say for example your landlord's lowest possible price, and and you knew your tenant's highest price on every single transaction, you probably close most of them deals. But it's getting that information out of the clients and asking the right questions, or asking more questions, and not just regurgitating features and benefits that might not actually relate to that client or that landlord.
Sure.
Actually understanding what their wants and needs are, and then acting on that. And also you can, as an agent, when you're negotiating a deal, there's a lot of pressure, I would say, or you have a lot of control over how that relationship plays out. And if you're too messy in the negotiation, there's too much back and forth, like you can really ruin a relationship before it's even got going. So it's important that you understand what information is being given to you, and relay parts of that during the negotiation, and maintain a good relationship from the outset as you're negotiating that.
That's what I love about what Alidad was saying there about getting the term sheet right. Like get everything that you need, so when you go to present it, it's actually clear information that a decision can actually be made about, and that you've actually got someone with real intent. Because there's nothing worse than thinking that you've got someone who's at that level. The moment it goes to paperwork, they turn to water and they're gone, and all of a sudden your owner's up there, the rest of the market's here, and you're trying to cross that bridge. It is also hard because there's a lot of people that are in a position that say, hey, there's lots of different competing estate agents. Why House and House? Like how's that helped you as a part of a brand when you're there talking to owners to say, hey, look, we want to make the decision to use you?
Yeah, I mean, House and House so established, right? 10 years in the business. Reason why I joined House and House is because they were the top agencies in Dubai, right?
Yes.
And landlords know that, right? When you speak to them, they've probably dealt with House and House before. If they haven't, give them a good service. So it has a reputation there already. They can trust the agents. And again, on our CRM system, we have so many repeat landlords. So they trust the company, they trust the business, and that's really important in us, getting business, getting leads. So it's a massive, massive plus working for a company of this stature.
And Jake, on your perspective, like I'm going to say, seeing House and House as a brand and how it's evolved in your time here, what are your thoughts about what's made it like the best estate agency in all of Dubai?
I think it's a moving picture all the time. Like the investment from the owners, their dedication, their ambition. It's changed in 3 years that I was there. It was an amazing, entity when I joined. It's a different beast even now. And what they've done is incredible, and their commitment to improvement, 1% every day. It's just great to be a part of, and that's what we want to do.
But I think the big opportunity is also that as the sales team has continued to build out, as off-plan has continued to build out, as holiday rentals has started to build out, as commercials started to build out, what has happened is that there's this entire ecosystem of amazing clients that are actually buying properties that are then turning them back into rental properties that we then get to go and lease. And so it's actually then referring between all the different service lines to now say, hey, it doesn't matter what it is that you actually do, whether or not it's maintenance with Breathe, right the way through to what we're doing in the sales environment in off-plan. There is so much opportunity that's being created, and we're seeing some record number of transactions going ahead in the off-plan world. And a lot of people don't realise that, but they're 1, 2, 3 or 4 year contracts in terms of payment plans. What that means is that we've got a huge pipeline of properties that are going to be coming to the market, and with huge amounts of population growth, it's a really exciting time to be in leasing. When you think a bit about that, like and you see the income that you can go to produce now, how dedicated and focused are you to getting your appointment numbers up each day and each week to be able to get your deals across the line?
Yeah, I mean, the number of people in Dubai is just growing at a rapid rate. So business is going to expand with that. There's going to be so much more business for me and the leasing agents, sales agents, and so on. You mentioned with the off-plan units and the 2040 plan, with the amount of people coming in then, you just have to be excited to go into that opportunity. I'm young, I'm 25, still got all that time ahead of me. So I'm really excited to just kick on and then get everything right. Appointments, so important. So important to get everyone booked in time. If there's a lead, get them booked in, because that's going to be your business, and more people coming in. So can't complain.
So Jake, I look at it and I say that literally that leasing is a great place to start in a estate agency. It's also a phenomenal place to stay. But what we often see is that some of the best sales agents that have actually happened inside of the House and House brand spent their time in leasing first. The first year, 2-3 years as a part of that minimum. And the benefit of that is you learn areas, you learn people, you learn pricing, you learn buildings, you learn all sorts of things about those communities, which then sets you up for a phenomenal sales career. Now that's a bit heartbreaking to you, because I know that sometimes you see some of your best in leasing go on, and then they go on to become wildly successful also in sort of the sales environment. But regardless of whether or not they're in leasing or sales, what I'm saying is that literally you learn all the foundations and the fundamentals in leasing, which can then be a phenomenal launch pad for the rest of your career. Is it important for people to start to say, hey, don't be too quick to want to go to sales or off plan first up? Use leasing as that incredible launch pad, but spend some time here for a couple of years first to be able to make sure that you do build all of that knowledge, but most importantly, build a huge client base, so the day that you do launch into sales, you can be selling on behalf of them and selling to them other properties that they could add to their portfolios.
100%. I mean, the best in the business, they've generally been here for years and years. It takes time to get to that point. There is a tendency in Dubai, people come here and they want to move quick and earn loads of money straight away. And yes, you can, and people have. But you have to look at the long game, right? And I see people that are maybe 22, 23, rushing to get to sales. I didn't move until I was 27. So they've already got 5 years on me. I was old, they've already got years on me. I was still selling cars or whatever back in the UK. So, even if they did another 3-4 years in leasing and then moved to sales, they've still got an advantage from where I started. So there isn't a rush. I think the worst thing you can do is rush into sales before you're ready, or before you may be financially in a position where you can. And then not do a sale and be packing your bags on your way back to mum and dad's house in the UK or something, because it's not quite worked out because you jumped too soon. Like, we have time. Like, we are here. We give you the right support. And we want everyone to go and earn loads of money in sales. Naturally, for the business, it's better. If you're earning huge amounts of money, then the business is earning money off the back of that. So we want people to progress and develop, but in time, there's no rush.
I think the big conversation about it, though, is that, don't let your ego get in the way. Be in a position that you build the foundations right. And if you think about it, okay, great, I'm going to come. How do you get there? What road is that? Literally, what metro station is that? Tell me a bit more. When does that open? What is that? And so you've got to learn all of these things. What a great place to start, though, where you've actually got a book of past clients that are actually continual clients. And I like to call it kind of like the subscription version of a estate agency, that literally people are subscribed. So your tenants are subscribers for 6 checks or 12 checks, as an example. Your owners are also subscribers, because now that that's actually happened, we now need to resubscribe for another 12 months to find someone else who can actually move into that property. And what you're doing is you're literally just putting this one together with this one on a day-by-day basis, and you're learning to build your confidence. How much has your self-confidence built since you've moved to Dubai and now that you've got 100 plus transactions under your belt?
Yeah, massively. And that just comes.
Do you remember you day one?
Yeah, very different. Yeah, very, very different. I mean, I did have an element of confidence, but also I said this to a lot of people as well. I came in with good sales experience, and I was confident that I could do the job. But also, it's leave your ego at the door. Like, it's a new place, it's a new system, it's new processes. Everything's different. Yes, sales is similar and transferable across industries, but no ego, and just crack on and listen and learn. It's one of our values. I suppose over time, even if you're not super confident at the start, like Alidad referred to when he first started, you've got to throw yourself in. The reason he's confident now is because he has area knowledge, because he's had those conversations. But if you never get on the phone and do it, you will stay shy and not confident. You know, you just need to jump in.
So Alidad, you know, it's kind of interesting. If we took you back to school and you were finishing school and you were there with the careers advisor and they said, oh, you know what, we think you should do leasing in Dubai. Like that would have been quite a bizarre concept, right? Because a lot of people would say, oh, you know, respectfully, go be a lawyer, or maybe go be a mechanic, or, you know, go to be a doctor, or go to do some of those professions. Do you think that there's a bit of a challenge here that like a lot of people don't necessarily think about leasing or estate agency as a profession?
Yeah, I think when you grow up, it's not, you know, you don't say I want to be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
It's always like, you know, the
normally a fireman or a policeman initially.
Yeah, exactly. Those major roles. So I think once you grow up, you understand that money is quite important to you.
Yeah, sure.
And you want to build a family, right?
Yes.
So you have to follow the money, see where it is.
Yes.
And Dubai real estate is where it's at right now. So
yes.
It's okay. It's not the cliche one, but it will make you a lot of money. You know, comparing to maybe doctors back home.
Yes.
Especially with the tax that they get, and we're here tax-free.
Yes.
Very lucky to be here tax-free.
Yes.
You're making similar type of money, so it's definitely a future, you know, people should consider at a young age now.
Yeah, Jake, a lot of people don't think about this, but we are seeing it in global economies. There's that a lot of those markets go through recessions, and they also too go through booms or growth periods. What you actually forget about is that what actually happens in the leasing environment is it is practically recession-proof, because people need somewhere to live. How important is that for someone who's seeking stability inside of their career, to be able to make money regardless of the economic cycles of the day?
Super important. You know, that's why people are moving, you know, hand over fist to this country, to this emirate, and they're able to better their lives. And in all honesty, even if there was a recession here, it's still a great place to live during a recession. You know, so I'd rather live here in a recession than in the UK during a recession. So,
and what a lot of people don't think about is if you can't afford to buy, you're going to rent. Yeah. So there's always going to be plenty of tenants, you know, from that point of view. There's always plenty of people that are going to have to move and become residents. And so your job is to actually realise that this is the best part of a estate agency, because it is actually recession-proof. Now, the interesting conversation is that you might have an extra supply all of a sudden added because they can't sell them, so you got to rent them. But yet the reality of it is that ultimately you're always involved in the multiple side of the transactions. So let's finish today's podcast and start to get you to think about it. Why Haus and Haus? Why Dubai? You know, give us the sell. What's been the best part for you?
I mean, the experience of Haus and Haus for a year and a half, unbelievable.
Yes.
Honestly, I've loved every minute. It's probably the best years of my life.
Yes.
1 year, but I hope to carry on for multiple years. Just the help and support you get at Haus and Haus is amazing. Like, any questions, ask Jake. He's always on hand to help. Knowledge base, obviously, we have that.
Sure.
Which answers every question. Right?
Yeah.
You can just Google it, basically. Google for real estate.
So I've heard that some people say that we're too corporate. Okay. I go the other way of saying that we're just a highly professional organisation, that we don't really believe in the common enemy approach. We believe in becoming the role models, and not egotistically, but how do we become the best in the world at what we do, in matching a tenant together with an owner to be in a position that we can actually have a really successful transaction for all parties, to be able to give them shelter, which is one of the most important parts of anyone's life, because it determines where they live and what they do and how they feel about what they do. And we're in a position of actually facilitating that. That's a pretty exciting part of life, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's just, you know, just being in Dubai in general is exciting. And then you put all the other aspects of Dubai into that, tax-free, okay, the life you live, it's just, it's amazing. And to be in a company like this, you know, you just thrive, basically. They give you the opportunity, a platform to thrive. That's where you want to be. And
for you, Jake, why Haus and Haus? Tell us more about that and what that journey's been like inside of the brand.
Well, for me, 3.5 years ago, there was just there was other options, but for me, there was only one that I was ever going to join. You know, it was there was something that kept drawing me back to the website. I was on it every day, looking at the videos, and there's a lot more material now to watch. So I would have had hours of fun back then, watching all the content that we're putting out, and I was just engrossed in the business. There was something about the culture and everything about it that was drawing me to this business. I actually say that in interviews. I was like, if you've got a gut feeling, then go with it. You know, even if it's not us, hopefully it will be us. I can't see any reason why it wouldn't be us. But, you know, you've got to go with your gut. I did, and it served me very well. It's just been an amazing place to work. And it's just, to be honest, it's getting even better, you know. And I know you mentioned a minute ago about some people think it's corporate. I think it's a way of people on the outside, you know, if you think of corporate businesses, then you think of super professional with great reputation, and that's probably what we are, you know, to the outside world. When you actually work within the business, it doesn't feel corporate. We've got the split offices, so we're not in one big huge office. It's hard to know everyone's name when you've got 500 staff, and that's, you know, that's probably not going to happen again. But we're also not on the other end, I would say, in terms of we're not all sort of sat around on beanbags playing FIFA, playing table tennis. Like, we are here to work and earn money, so we're very professional in that sense. But it's not cutthroat, hire and fire corporate world that people might perceive.
Yeah, the big conversation, like, I've spent a lot of time with the founders, and when you go and talk with them and you say, hey, James and Luke and Simon, tell us a little bit about it, you know, what is really critical inside of this business? And it's like they just came out and they wanted a better life. And they want a better life for every single person that joins the firm. And it's very evident to me that their preparedness to want to invest in infrastructure, to spend time about, you know, really helping people be successful, to find out what our best do, turn that into a formula and replicate that through quality systems and forms and checklists and visuals and dialogues to make it easier and faster, so that whenever you come to join a firm like this, that we've actually got that level of platform for success is like something that I haven't seen anywhere else in the world. And when you start to think about what we do in terms of training and education and events, what we're doing for internal support, what we're doing around internal promotions, the chance to really be able to have career progression as you start out day one to actually then becoming, you know, one of the associate directors and directors inside of the firm over time. Like, this is the playground, and it's an unbelievable place to be. And it's kind of like we need to all go back to our careers advisors and say, how did you miss that as not being an option? Because at the end of the day, you get to be in a position that it is recession proof. You get to be in a position that you get to learn about communities, you get to learn about people, you get to learn about how to put transactions together, you get to learn about compliance, but most importantly, there's always something to do in the leasing environment. This is the best place to start your real estate career, to also continue your real estate career, because there's a high volume of transactions, and you get to be in a position that you can be involved in that, earn incredible income, and being one of the best places in the world. So, gentlemen, so great to have you on our Essential series as a part of this podcast.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.